Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the January 15th, 2019 meeting of the City of Vista Planning Commission. Would you all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Bell. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Mr. Salazar, would you call the roll, please?
Good evening, Chairman. All commissioners are present, including the student commissioners.
Very good. Commissioners, before you, we have the minutes from our December 4th meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes, or if not, can we hear a motion to approve? Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there are no comments from the other commissioners, I move that we approve the minutes as written from the December 4th, 2018 meeting.
Commissioner Garrison?
I would second that motion.
It's been moved and second to approve the minutes of our December 4th, 2018 meeting. Please cast your vote. And the motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, agenda changes. Ms. Chow, any changes to tonight's agenda?
Good evening, Chairman Russler. No changes tonight. Thank you.
Very good. Next up is oral communications. This is a time that the Commission sets aside for members of the public to address the Commission on items that are not on the agenda. You need to fill out a speaker slip, and I only have one slip from Mr. Cliff Kaiser. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Chair. I'd like 6 or 8 or 10, but that's okay. Welcome to the new year. Happy New Year. I want to applaud you because you've seen me before, and I comment on several items on your agenda, and I don't come to every meeting because I really appreciate the talent that the City Council has appointed in all of you. And I really appreciate that. I really think you are looking on behalf of the community of Vista, the city of Vista, and I appreciate that immensely. I do have a couple of comments for you to reflect back on. One is the AutoZone auto parts store on South Santa Fe, just south of Civic Center. I'm not sure how much input you had into that, but it's a pretty ugly place facing South Santa Fe. The back door, basically, the back side of it is facing the facing the street. Doesn't reflect good on Vista. The other one, the apartments at Beaubier and Vista Way. There was the big hill there that looked really beautiful, and now it's just a big wall, like the Great Wall of China or whatever it may be. I hope it becomes better looking, but right now it's not very good looking, and that reflects back on you and the City Council and the city at whole as at large. But again, I appreciate what you do. I appreciate your talents, and I appreciate not having to come here all the time and criticize your efforts. Okay. Bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser. 2 quick comments for you. The AutoZone building has been there for a long time. It used to be, I think, a Blockbuster a long time ago. But until they come in and do something with the shopping center, we don't have a whole bunch of discretion to go make them an improvement. But it's something we'll keep our eye on. The other one was that that project, what we've referred to as Delphi Corners, we had a long discussion with the developer. They were at early design review, I think, twice, and we're asking for a whole ton of units. And it's down to, I think, 125 townhomes now. The wall meets the city code, and it's going to be planted with trees, each one of those strips. So the height of the wall is the maximum that they can have without putting in a landscaping strip. So hopefully in 5 years, the trees mature somewhat and the wall will disappear. But we did question them closely about that design, and that's what they chose to do, and it complied with city code. So we were in a difficult position. So it's going to look, I think, if you think about the Home Depot in Oceanside at Carlsbad in 78, or College in 78, was an ugly wall for a long time. Finally, the landscaping took over, and it looks okay today. So anyway, thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Make one more comment, please. I would encourage you to push back on the city council from time to time on those codes that you guys are bound by.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing. During our public hearings, we will hear from a staff report from staff. The applicant will be given an opportunity to come and address the commission, add additional comments, and then we will, the commission will ask questions. Then we'll open it up to the public for testimony. You need to fill out a speaker slip and give it to Mr. Salazar, our recording secretary, and then I will call the names. I usually take them in the order that I receive them, and then we will close the public hearing, have a discussion amongst the commissioners, and then make a decision. So our first public hearing is the Nassar Townhomes. Mr. Ressler, your staff report, please.
Thank you, Chairman Rossler, members of the Planning Commission. The project before you tonight is the Nassar Townhomes. The application number is P17-0159. The request includes a site development plan, tentative subdivision map, as well as a condominium housing permit. The subject site is 1.5 acres located on the west side of East Vista Way, just south of Warmlands Avenue. The site is one legal parcel, and it's currently vacant land with a small flower stand towards the front of the property. Here's a few photographs of the existing conditions of the site. Surrounding land uses include an apartment complex to the north, the country feed store, and a townhome development to the east across East Vista Way, commercial development to the south, and single-family residential lots to the west and to the southwest. The general plan land use designation for the site is medium high-density residential, which allows for up to 15 dwelling units per acre. The zoning of the site is RM15, which would allow up to 2 stories and, again, a maximum density of 15 dwelling units per acre. The proposed Nassar Townhome project would require a site development plan, tentative subdivision map, as well as a condominium housing permit. The proposal includes a request to develop 21 townhome units on 1.5 acres, which equates to 14 dwelling units per acre. Other site improvements include open space amenities, parking, as well as other site improvements. Access to the site would be provided by a private driveway along East Vista Way. And recreation amenities include a playground area, barbecue area, and a variety of seating areas. The submitted site plan proposes the development of 7 two-story townhome buildings ranging from 2 to 5 townhomes per building. Access to the site would be provided by a new 24-foot wide driveway located at the southeast corner of the site. The site would also maintain a gated secondary emergency access located at the northeast corner of the site. In regards to parking, the City of Vista Development Code requires 2.5 parking spaces per condominium for 2-bedroom condominiums, with the proposal including 21 condominiums. Total parking required for this development would be 53. The applicant has indicated on the site plan that a total of 58 parking spaces would be provided, which exceeds the code by 5 parking spaces. The 58 parking spaces include 42 garage spaces as well as 16 open parking spaces. In regards to landscaping, the submitted landscape plan indicates that 21.7% of the site would be dedicated to landscaping, which exceeds the code requirement of 15%. In regards to amenities, the submitted plan indicates 3 primary open space areas, a centralized tot lot area featuring play equipment, seating benches, as well as open turf. A secondary open space area would be provided and would include a barbecue area featuring countertop barbecue, picnic table, benches, and so forth. And the site also maintains a variety of seating areas sporadically provided throughout the site. The townhomes themselves would be 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath, ranging from 1,600 to 1,700 square feet. Each townhome would be provided a 2-car garage, as well as a code-required 160 cubic feet of storage space. Architecturally, the buildings would be 2 stories, maximum height of 29 foot 6 inches. The architectural design of the townhomes reflect a contemporary style. The townhomes would maintain a stucco exterior, enhanced with window banding, decorative railings, as well as a stacked stone accent. When completed, the project itself would maintain 2 distinctive earth tone color schemes. Here's a perspective of the proposed townhome building. This perspective showcases the building projections, the articulation in the roof lines, as well as the decorative railings on the second-story patios. The general plan land use designation for the site is medium high density residential, which limits the density to 15 dwelling units per acre. The proposed project, 21 dwelling units, would maintain a density of 14, which meets the general plan designation. In regards to the zoning ordinance standards, the RM development standards will be met. In terms of building height, the maximum height within the zone is 35 feet. The proposed development would be a maximum of 29 foot 6 inches. In regards to parking, the project exceeds our parking standards by 5 parking spaces. And the project also meets or exceeds the open space requirements as well as the landscape requirements. This project went before the Planning Commission for an early design review on August 16th of 2016. Since that time, the applicant has worked with staff to resolve some of the concerns of the Planning Commission. Some of those concerns include the retaining walls, large, high retaining walls adjacent to the public sidewalk. Since the EDR, the developer has redesigned the site to reduce the size and the number of the retaining walls adjacent to the public right-of-way. The Planning Commission had concerns with the potential of converting an office space on the first floor into a bedroom. And since that time, the developer has decided to redesign the floor plans to eliminate the office area on the first floor. In regards to amenities, the Planning Commission was concerned with the quantity and quality of the amenities. Since the early design review, the developer has elected to eliminate 1 unit in order to provide an additional open space area. Additional details were provided during that time, which described the barbecue area and the playground area in further detail. Those details are before you tonight. The open space amenities, again, would include playground equipment, seating benches, open turf area, a barbecue area with picnic table, as well as additional seating areas. In regards to massing and architectural continuity, the Planning Commission had concern with the design of the project. So since that time, the developer has went back to the drawing board and decided to go a different approach and made some substantial changes in order to create a more cohesive architectural style for the project. And finally, parking was a concern of the Planning Commission. With eliminating the unit and being able to reorganize the project, the applicant was able to increase the provided parking on site in order to exceed our code requirements by 5 parking spaces. With that, staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt the attached resolution approving a site development plan, tentative subdivision map, condominium housing permit to develop 21 two-story attached townhomes on 1.5 acres located at 2060 East Vista Way. That concludes staff's report. The developer is here to introduce himself and to provide any answers to questions the Planning Commission might have at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rustler. Any questions of staff? Okay, I have Mr. Robin Fried? Freed?
Commissioner Rustler, or
Yes.
Chairman Rustler, excuse me. The applicant is here. I'm not sure if he'd like to elect to come up and introduce himself at this time.
Okay.
And maybe describe the project and the thought process behind the project.
I see what was happening. All right. Hi.
Hello, my name is Ali Fakimi. I am the developer on this project. I started this project years ago with my late father. During the whole process, he passed away, and I had to basically put it on hold, and we started again. Hence, I named the project after him, the Nassar Homes. We did come up with the early design project. It was kind of a modern project with a lot of people didn't like in the city, so we went back to the drawing board and went more for a traditional project. During that time, we did reduce one unit just in order to make it a more open space, a more pleasant area for living. Especially, we know how parking is so limited there because we have the neighboring apartment complex park on our lot every day. We've been in Vista for almost 2 decades, so I'm not an outside developer. Me and my father built his home together in Kingsview Estate. It was one of the nicest homes in Vista. And we have several other homes and several other properties here, so we really want to see the city develop and improve and get better and better as it has been. We did own the lot where the Sonic Burger is now. We sold it to that developer, in which became the Sonic. I'm open to any suggestions, questions. We've worked really diligently with the staff to try to organize this project as easily as possible for it to fit the community.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant? Hang on. Commissioner Garrison?
Yes, sir, I have a couple of questions. First of all, what's going to happen to the traffic on East Vista Way? In other words, is this going to be left turn in, right turn out, or left in, left out?
Well, that we have a traffic study that was done on the project. I don't think we've gotten quite that far yet with exactly which way we're going to turn in, but coming southbound, you're going to turn right into the project.
But coming out of the development, can you turn
right
north on East Vista Way?
That is something I don't think we've even addressed yet. I think it's just going to be turning right out of the development, not turning north.
As an interim condition, because ultimately the general plan defines East Vista Way as a 4-lane major. However, until the land is available and the availability is there to expand East Vista Way to 4 lanes, the interim condition would be a striped median, which would allow for left turns in, left turns out, as well as one traffic lane going southbound, a interim decel lane going right into the site, as well as parking along the new curb line.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if the project across the street with the Shea Homes, if they do have a left turn in and out.
So this
The
project,
condition in front of this project will be consistent with the condition in front of Sahara Townhome, which is, yes,
Right.
directly to the southeast of this project.
so question number 2, so the street in front would be widened as this project is developed, correct?
Correct. On the R side of the street,
And
what
would
would
have
be
a
developed?
sidewalk
Yes,
on it just south of there.
correct.
And the third question I would have would be the streets that go in, A and B, is it? How are you going to turn? It looks like it just dead ends.
So the access drive coming into the site does go directly to the rear of the property. That is the driveway coming in, as well as a sewer access easement provided to the city itself. So that access easement would would dead into the rear in order to provide that access to the property to the rear as well. However, there's adequate turning radiuses to enter the site, go north, and go to the additional interior street that provides access to the other row of homes. However, the secondary driveway would have a gate, so there wouldn't be any ingress egress at that driveway.
But if you went straight in from the East Vista Way and you went down the street, it just dead ends.
That's correct. And however, it provides
east
access
side
to
of the
that
property.
that last condominium driveway.
So how are people going to turn? They're going to pull in and back out?
24-foot driveway with the 5-foot driveway leading to that condominium garage. They would have the ability to make that turn and get back
And
out.
fire trucks would also...
Fire departments reviewed this. They have the secondary access. So, yeah, they have an easy circular access to provide them appropriate circulation pattern on site, so there's no issue there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That was the secondary gate that we had put in on East Vista Way.
Okay, Commissioner Looney?
I've gone through the plans, a lot of work, a lot of money. And so my comment is just a comment because I know the expense that it takes. When I looked at the floor plan, you've got a great upper level, you've got 2 master suites. Downstairs at the main level, particularly the kitchen, the living and dining room, when I remove the 3.5 feet for the stair, we've got a 14-foot by 17-foot space for the kitchen, living, and dining area, which is a little bit bigger than an ADA van parking stall. So again, it's just a comment, but when I see the effort and the expense on the drawings, it might be worth a second look at the floor plan because, again, you've got great master suites, but the living area is about the size, it is the size of one of the master bedrooms. So I'll just leave it at that, and I'll leave it at that. So.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions of the applicant? Thank you very much. I'll open the public hearing now, and Robin Fried.
Hi, I'm Robin Fried. Mr. Fakimi, nice to meet you. Commissioners, staff, nice to meet you as well, Mike. I'm a concerned adjacent property owner. Mr. Fakimi and I share about 50 feet of property line. I live at 1054 Corvala Drive in Vista. On this property, I'm developing an organic farm and nursery.
Mr. Ressler, could you put the aerial photo up so we can kind of identify where her property is located?
So her property is located right here, and this is the common property line.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we know where you're at.
My property is zoned rural residential by the County of San Diego. The medium-high density residential land use allows for multifamily residential development, provided the design is compatible with adjacent development. I've submitted a letter providing details of my concerns. You should all have those. In summary, I did not receive notice of this project. My adjacent development is not included in the staff report. If you read the adjacent land uses, it keeps saying on the south it's commercial, and it's more than commercial on the south. At present, there's a chain link fence separating my property from the proposed Nassar Townhomes property. So what will this new interaction between properties look like? No new fencing is proposed, okay? According to their plans, they're going to adjust the grade. Don't know what that'll look like. They're going to put in a less than 3-foot wide planting area, which will be installed on the property line. It's going to be faced by a curb on their side. On the other side of the curb are the 9-foot wide parallel parking spaces, then a 24-foot wide roadway, the 5-foot driveways, and the building facades. There is essentially no landscaping in front of the houses. The planter is of an insufficient width for a screening hedge to thrive. The plant species identified is undesirable at best. It's listed as an invasive species, and it has a mature width of 6 to 10 feet, not 3 feet. So that's going to be planted 1.5 feet from the property line. It's going to be very difficult to comply with the conditions of approval that require all plantings shall be maintained in a healthy and thriving condition, and all screening shrubs shall be maintained at a height that effectively screens the area they were planted to obscure. The planter is insufficient protection for my organic farming operation from herbicides and pesticides. And because the design has minimal parking for the way this development will actually be used, these parallel parking spaces will be 100% occupied. I'm concerned this will result, I'm probably out of time, in vehicle maintenance fluid dumping here. Okay, so there's little to protect my farm and nursery from trespass by an invasive plant, by persons, by animals, and by trash and vehicle fluids. I strongly encourage the developer to provide...
Wait. No, you address the commission. Sorry.
Well, and I'll work with him too, I hope.
Sure.
And the city of Vista to insist on effective separation to protect my farm from trespass by persons, trash, pets, etc. Mr. Fakimi and I had a phone conversation. He suggested he might consider a wrought iron fence. This, along with a sufficiently wide planter and a desirable hedge species, appears to be a good solution. Another option is a block wall, 6 foot high, fronted by a screening hedge. Without proper protection of my adjoining, I don't have time for any of that. So there's additional concerns, but I'm obviously beyond time unless you want to grant me some more. I'm also concerned about site lighting and its effect on my geese and my chickens. I don't think the neighbors are going to like if they cause the chickens to do their thing in the middle of the night. And there is an issue with stormwater run onto Mr. Fakimi's site from the adjacent single-family residential lots above. And I'm afraid that it's not yet addressed in the plans, and it may be rerouted so that it becomes run on to my property. I'm available for any questions or anything like that. I just learned about this project and trying to make sure that my use is also protected so that we can be compatible with one another. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Gilman?
Hi, I'm Mary Gilman. I live just behind what are indicated as the single-family residentials on Holly Drive, just behind this area off Barsby. And so my concerns are not only as far as this project, which is, we can see that area, we can see those empty lots, and then we can see this, the planned project from our driveway. And the impact of that. But I'm also concerned about the claims of preserving open space when obviously there may be some open space in the actual units or on their development, but this is just one of several open space areas in our semi-rural Vista area that are being developed. And so that concerns me from the open space, from the wilderness, from the birds and other things that we have always had in our area, but also from the traffic congestion. In addition to this, as you are well aware, next door is the Vista Ladera apartments. You go by there any time of the day, and those apartment dwellers or visitors are parked in front of the Nassar townhome site. There's overflow and so there's always cars parked there. So you're going to have a problem with the parking for the residents of Nassar townhomes, and there'll be that conflict with the Vista Ladera next door. Down the street from there, of course, at Taylor is the Taylor Apartments, another, 90 apartments within a few tenths of a mile, and then down the road. So my concern, of course, because it's right, I live right behind there, is that area from Taylor, East Taylor, on up through, up through to the 76 is one lane in each direction. Not only at rush hour, but any time of the day, you cannot turn left out of Barsby to get onto East Vista Way, and it's just going to get worse. And when I read, and I just yesterday got the notice of this meeting, and of course this is important to me, but I did print out and did read the reports and the traffic report. And for the traffic study to say, oh, well, it's okay because we're going to, in 10 years, be building this into a 4-lane highway. First of all, I don't know how you're going to do that without taking all the businesses in that area out. But in any case, for 10 years, even now, for the last few years, since we have the Sierra homes across the street, and now these 6, within a few tenths of a mile, 6 projects that are going to be developed, you just can't, the traffic is horrendous. So those are my issues, and very concerned about the impact to our semi-rural area.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
That was the last speaker slip that I had on the project. Anyone else wishing to address the commission? All right. If not, we will close the public hearing and open it up to discussion amongst the commissioners. Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for staff. On page 4 of 222, under analysis, paragraph A, it's the second paragraph. It says improvements proposed in the circulation element include widening East Vista Way to a 4-lane undivided major arterial. In addition, the addition of a Class 2 bikeway, installation of sidewalks on East Vista Way and Taylor Street. So these don't mean the whole street because Vista Way belongs to the county. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it exits the city boundary just north of Warmlands.
Okay. So these improvements that are cited here are just in front of the project site, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, which is the standard for the way we do business.
As well as the developer would be required to pay traffic impact fees.
Yeah.
With 21 units, the traffic impact fee for this project would be about $93,000.
Yeah, I saw that. That's huge. Okay, that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Garrettson?
I have a question on traffic. And I looked at 2 traffic studies, one from 2014 and one from 2017. And it shows that traffic has increased about 6% at Warmlands over that period of time. So, that's 2 years ago, and we have all these developments. So this traffic study, 112 pages, and it basically comes to the conclusion that it's not a significant impact on traffic. But the issue is all the other developments along that way. When does 3 insignificance turn into a significant impact? You have all these other developments along there, and at some point in time, all those insignificance turn into a significance. So how do we address that?
Well, in the traffic study, there is a cumulative project trip generation list in terms of the projects that they analyzed in the cumulative portion of the report. And the projects you're talking about there, I think there's 5 or 6 of the projects identified in the surrounding area that are included in that portion of the analysis. So they do, in fact, in the report, include those projects within the analysis.
So the conclusion is that even when all 6 are fully developed and the traffic from those is in full swing, it will be an insignificant impact on traffic.
This project, that's correct.
No, I mean all of the projects, all 6.
And taking consideration the long-term improvements that are identified in the general plan, yes, you're correct. Which would mean the 4-lane arterial along East Vista Way within the city
would do
limits.
nothing once you get past or north of Warmlands.
Which would be in San Diego County, yes.
Which would mean that traffic is going to back up through here once it hits the 2 lanes, if nothing is done. So this and the other projects will have a significant impact on traffic on East Vista Way up to Warmlands, correct?
Not up to Warmlands, no. Beyond Warmlands, it wasn't analyzed in the report. And again, it's outside the city limits, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Grimm.
Yes.
Yep. Press the red button.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, in just as a comment or a question kind of on Mrs. Freed's concerns, obviously sometimes when you're 2 different jurisdictions, abutting each other, it's not always, fine-tuned planning between the 2 organizations. But I guess my question would be maybe to staff is just, I assume that this property, based on the fact that there's apartment units next to it, this has probably been at 15 dwelling units per acre for some time, or is this something that's been...
I've been here for 3 years now, but John has a historic memory, so he might know a little bit more about it.
This property was actually rezoned a multifamily residential in 2012 when we updated the general plan. Before that, it was zoned commercial C1.
Okay, so, but it was, so actually it was rezoned to a lower use then? I mean, in terms of traffic. Lower being the wrong word, but in terms of...
Depending on how you look at it, it could be considered a lower use, but yes, the zoning was changed at that time.
Right.
The real issue at that time was that we did not see a viable commercial use locating on this property.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
And Commissioner Jackal.
Thank you. I'm concerned about traffic a slightly different way. This road just east of Warmlands kind of goes over a hill. And therefore, your sight line, if you're driving out of the driveway, turning left, you can't really see the traffic that's coming very well. And I'm just concerned that the driveway is going to be constructed in a way that will let people get out safely.
The project's been analyzed by the traffic engineer. The traffic engineer's had quite a few opportunities to review this. Our in-house engineer, as well as the consultant that prepared the traffic analysis, and during that discussion and during that analysis, they felt that the project meets the requirements and that there's no objection in terms of the location of the driveway or the safety getting in and out of the driveway. So our traffic engineer has reviewed it and sees no issues associated with it.
Okay. I had also, I agree with Commissioner Looney about the living kitchen area of the first floor. If these have more than just a couple of people in them, these dwelling units, that's not a lot of room for more than 1 or 2 people. So just a thought.
I found in the staff report at the very end of the traffic study, page 221 of 222, There's an analysis by Rancho Coastal Engineering of site distance to the south and to the north. There's the required distances of 300 and 500 feet and measured distances of 1,500 feet. So seems to comply with the standards. So, and when they improve the street, people will have an area to pull out and accelerate, much as they do now for the homes across the street. So I shared the same concern. Did you have additional comments? No? Commissioner Looney.
My comment again was on access to the property. The applicant has placed that drive as far south as he possibly can, next to that existing, well, it would be basically on the other side of the flower shop. When I was there, I backed up. There was enough room to stay off the street, but it is doable. It's just risky, but with that street improvement coming onto the property, he's really done the best that he possibly could to get as far away from that intersection as at Warrenlands that he possibly could. So,
Commissioner Bill.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of comments. If I recall, this was the project where originally there were deck views on the top, and we took that down. I think that's the right move here. I mean, I like the general design of this. I share the same concern with the size of the living area, but I think you'll work through that and decide that the market's going to determine whether you can build something that people will want. So, pay attention to the market as much as the design on that. But I will comment, I really like the layout that you've come to. I have a vague recollection from 2 years ago looking at it, and I think that putting the open space in the middle like this makes it very attractive. I think that's a huge change from what I recall before, just from a living feel of having something, whether there's kids playing or not, just having some center focus of the complex takes away the row of blocks feel that many apartment complexes have. So I hope that adds some value to what you're building, and I commend you for that. I want to address Mrs. Freed. I hear your concerns on this. I don't know how long you lived on the property, but this is always the tough challenge we face of existing owners versus owners who have owned it for a while but are coming in to make changes. And we've dealt with this in many areas within the city where new buildings are going up much higher than old buildings, and it's a change. So work with the city, work with the owner. Oftentimes what you've addressed with the type of fencing, the type of planting, the hedges, sometimes these are default choices that are simply chosen because they're there, and if you have input, often the costs aren't that different, and the current owner will be glad to work with you to ensure that your farm is protected and you can really be heard on that. And then speaking to the traffic in general, I heard a couple of different answers here, so I want to get a little bit of clarity on this. So as designed here, if approved by the City Council and the Planning Department and us, recommended by us, this will expand to what is essentially 2 lanes with a middle left turn lane in front of this complex.
Okay, so you'll have an interim condition.
Right.
Ultimately, you would have 2 travel lanes going northbound and southbound. As an interim condition, you would have a striped median that would allow for left turn into the driveway and allow for a left turn out, decel into that travel lane going north.
And striped median is not I'm trying to use the right terms here, it's not a driving lane, but it is a center lane that you can move into so traffic going past you can continue.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect.
And in addition to that, you would continue to have a southbound through lane, as well as the additional right-of-way in an interim condition would have a decel lane, stripe lane going into the driveway of this project, and temporarily on an interim basis, there'll be parking in front of the site as well along the curb line.
So that'll be the status as the project is built, and now the long-term plan, putting aside what the county does north of Warmlands Avenue, but everything the city is going to do as projects improve, as funding is given, I assume, that is to turn this into 2 lanes each way, a 4-lane road with an in-turn lane in the middle?
Actually, it converts that striped median into a actual raised planter median separating the middle travel lanes.
Okay, so unless there's a approval given at some point to allow for left-hand turns, that will be a median that will block left-hand turn access out of this project?
That's correct. The project would ultimately be right in, right out.
And that would be designed to keep traffic flowing on that area of Vista Way going up toward, yeah, I get Santa Fe and Vista mixed up.
You're correct.
I've lived here for years and I still get those two confused.
Going north to
okay.
Wormlands, yeah.
And then I will just say for the public and those listening, talk to the county. We're right on the border of the county right there, and there is money to be had. We have some new supervisors out there who would love to hear from you all. And so if you have ideas and thoughts about the roads up there, let your voices be heard, and that's how things get done around here. So we only have so much control up to the city limits, but beyond that, if you have ideas either way, more traffic, less traffic, whatever you want, just let the county know. They love to hear from you. Give you their email addresses. They love to hear from you. But in all seriousness, do that, because that really makes a difference. That is how things get done, and hearing from citizens on the borderline between the cities and the county does make a big difference. So please let that be heard as well. Thanks.
Commissioner Bell, I would point out to you that this is a site development plan, tentative subdivision map, and condominium permit. So this is the final approval here tonight. There isn't a legislative action.
Well,
so,
and I think my intention in that was for the road as a whole, not for this project,
right,
but for that area as a whole, traffic concerns. Let your voices be heard for that area as a
sure,
whole, not for this project.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Garrettson.
Yes, I have a question on sidewalks. If you enter this property through the main entrance on a sidewalk, how does one get to these properties, let's say building G and H, without going all the way around the property? It doesn't appear that there's a direct sidewalk from the main entrance to get to G and H.
I know the developer worked as hard as they could to provide pedestrian access outside of the driveways. Those are the two buildings that, excuse me, those are the two buildings that are a little bit more difficult to get to. Here's the main sidewalk here going into the project, provide access to these two buildings. You have a walkway here that goes across decorative paving that provides access to these buildings here, direct access here. However, G and H, you'd go along this walkway here and go down the driveway that leads to the walkway here. Those are the only two. They couldn't logically provide an additional walkway. You have a retaining wall right here because of the grade difference and the limitations in terms of the site itself. They don't have it. They will have to go into the driveway for those two buildings.
They can't even come all the way around because there's no way to get from here over to G.
You do have a
you have to go through the driveway is the point.
Gosh, you do have a set of stairs right here, so if they went through the common open space area, they could come down here and access that unit here. So I guess you could do that. This unit here, here's a walkway right here that provides access. So I guess in reality, I think H is about the only building that doesn't have a direct connection, unfortunately. And they would have to go from here down past two garages to get to this walkway right here.
So walk me through that again.
Say that again?
From the main entrance.
You have a walkway right here
H.
that here's a main walkway here, comes down into the project here, provides access to all these buildings right here. Building A and Building B. You have an open space here with a concrete walkway that leads to the driveway here. You have decorative paving that goes across that driveway, as well as decorative paving that goes across this driveway. You have two walkways right here. This walkway provides direct access to these units here. You have a walkway here that provides access to these units right here. You could go through the common open space area. There's a set of stairs here that provides access to these units. However, unfortunately, I think Unit 21, you'd have to go through this walkway, come down the driveway, and get to that unit. So I guess 20 of the 21 units have a safe pedestrian connection. Unfortunately, because of the layout of this project, I think the one unit, you'd have to go into the driveway, go behind two garages to get to the walkway leading to the front door.
Unfortunately, that one unit is at the end of the driveway or the end of the street, so there shouldn't be any major traffic. I'm just thinking of safety.
Yeah, and
especially
keep in mind, I
smaller
think
kids.
there's 2 parking stalls here, so you won't have major traffic. The only people accessing these garages would be the residents here, so you're correct. There really won't be any major activity in that back area as well. Yes, sir.
Okay, that answered my question. Thank you, Michael.
Commissioner Looney?
To the staff and to applicants, as we've seen commercial properties and multi-units butt up against other single-family homes, oftentimes there is an agreement between the applicant and neighbors to build a concrete wall. And if we take this 50 feet, if the 2 parties can come together with a 6-foot masonry wall, that might be an easy resolve for the applicant to make a neighbor happy. There's a cost, again, involved, but the objective is to have that kind of that good neighbor policy, and so that's just something that we see often where we have commercial abutting up against a single-family property. So just something to consider as the applicant goes further and as neighbors come together and try to find a solution that works for both of you.
Okay. Mr. Kaiser, I have closed the public hearing, so Mr. Kaiser turned in a speaker slip late. Would you like to hear from him? Okay, Mr. Kaiser, we'll open the public hearing and...
Thank you, Chairman. It's often good to hear what the comments are for the public to come back forth for you. And I would say, and perhaps many of you have experienced this, the traffic on East Vista Way is pretty nasty during rush hour traffic. And to push it off on the county to say that, you know, we got 4 lanes here and you need to do something about your 2 lanes, that's kind of a cop-out, I think. You guys and the city needs to say, hey, this is a major thoroughfare through the city of Vista, and you need to make sure that before you do more development in Vista, that the county, and you know, whether it's the county or the Carlsbad or Oceanside, whoever you're butting up against, that they can accommodate the traffic as well. I don't like the idea of doing new developments in Vista and then just jamming the traffic into the county and saying, well, sorry, I can't do anything about it. It's a county problem. Thank you for hearing that.
Commissioner Bill.
Thank you. I don't disagree with you, Mr. Kaiser, and I appreciate the comment. I didn't mean to come across like I was trying to push this off on someone else's problem. I think I was simply trying to point out that the city of Vista literally only has control up to a certain point, and I give the city a lot of credit for trying to make plans and require owners to expand the road as they build. You're not wrong that it's really tough to coordinate all of this between government entities. It's really tough to hold off progress and planning while we wait for someone else to catch up, come along, agree with our plans, and to coordinate that. I don't have the right answer to that, and so I apologize if I came across trying to push this off on someone else. I think what my point is that I'm really glad you're here because we need to hear from you, and the council needs to hear from you. Make sure the county hears from you as well because we live on their border. That's all I'm saying. And so the county does have new leadership and the county does have money that they will be allocating toward things. I don't know any details about how that works. I am so far outside of that zone, but I know that your voice matters. And I believe that, and if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be here. And so that's all I'm getting at is to make sure that you go beyond us and talk to the county as well and advocate for the city of Vista and for our traffic problems. I will say that I hear a lot of anecdotes about traffic being bad, and I agree with you. I live in the traffic as well. It is bad. But we have to use some objective standard when we make these decisions, and we can't rely on people's individual anecdotes without looking at some objective person or organization that we have asked to go do a study and to look at the numbers and to examine this. And that's what this traffic study has done. And so you may not agree with it, and I completely understand that, especially when language and terms used in the study say things like no impact or negative impact or things like that. I understand why that sounds bad, but we have to find some common language about how we discuss traffic other than it makes me feel bad or I get stuck in it a lot, because otherwise we won't come up with solutions. So I would just give credit to the traffic study for what it is, and if we disagree with it, we can look at other traffic studies. We can do future traffic studies. Someone can pay for those as we build more in the future, but just know that we're not ignoring your comments, but we have to, or at least I personally have to, look at what a study says that people have put time and measurement into over a period of time and go with that when it says this is what the impact is. But I know the frustration and I hear it because I also live in it, and it certainly feels bad on a day-to-day basis as you're sitting in it.
Okay, very good. I have no other requests to speak, and our speaker slips up. Commissioner Kramer.
Hopefully one last question. Mr. Rossler, the 50 feet that, let's see.
Mrs. Freed?
Mrs. Freed, yeah, her 50 feet, but that whole property line. So nothing in here requires any kind of fencing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Why is that?
Code doesn't require a separation between residential uses,
Okay,
a barrier.
okay, okay. And Commissioner Looney talked about the possibility of a block wall. I would not be in favor of that. To me, it would feel like things would be closed off, and it would make Mr. Nassar's property look, to me, like a compound versus something. So my thought is, and I'm not sure if on the Nassar property it would be beneficial to do wrought iron, that whole strip, including Mrs. Freed's 50 feet, or if there was a way to give the distinction between the Nassar property and Mrs. Freed's property with something that was a little bit more open, like wrought iron. So I wondered what the commissioners...
You got to come.
We were planning on either doing the wrought iron all the way around with hedges that covers the fence so you don't see the fence, or a black chain link fence with non-invasive hedges, that non-fruit, non-pesticides needed, all the way around the whole thing, that it's a greenery all the way around instead of use. I wasn't in favor of a block wall either. It looked like a prison.
Yes, yes, very much. And I'm certain, because we've had these discussions before, but you can work with Mrs. Freed to make sure that the hedging is something that won't infect her.
No, we would maintain our hedges on our own side of the property. So,
okay.
I mean, we'll have the whole landscapers, everything, take care of that.
All right. Thank you very much.
And the city does retain a licensed landscape architect that does all of our landscape plan reviews. Mm-hmm. So anything that gets approved and construction drawings go through the city, they go directly to our landscape architect for review. So
okay, so hopefully nothing that gets planted will be anything that would be invasive to Mrs. Freed's garden. Anything
landscape would have to be meet the landscape manual that the city has established.
Okay.
And that manual is located on our website for anybody wanting to view that document.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah, just as the developers agreed to it, I think we just need to add that as a condition of approval.
Okay. Grace, Jesse, any comments tonight on this project?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the traffic. I used to go up past that sunflower store that's over there 3-4 times a week to go up there to a volleyball court, and sometimes it was bumper to bumper all the way. It's bad. So yeah, I definitely think we should look into the traffic more. Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Mr. Ressler, I had one comment in my comments on the project. Now that everybody else has had their say. The driveway entrance seems to be a standard curb cut, and I was wondering if the alley return might make for better traffic flow in and out of the project. Did our engineers have any concerns about that, the entrance, the driveway cut?
No, I think it should meet our standard city requirements, so I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
In regards to the condition that we were discussing, if the commission wishes to do so, I just want to make sure that we're talking about the rear 50 feet here. Just so the commission knows, I've had conversations with the commercial development just to the south of this property, and they're actually thrilled with this project because they have issues with graffiti on the rear of that elevation of that building. So they like to see eyes. They prefer having eyes on the back of their building. So they would prefer not having too much of a barrier separating this project from their development. So he was thrilled, and he actually didn't show up tonight. He was supportive of the project. So I just want to make sure what we do tonight, doesn't contradict what my discussion with him previously.
Okay. All right. That's all the comments that we have. Commissioners, come to a time to make a decision. Commissioner Garrettson.
I would move that we approve this with the condition that a wrought iron fence be along that 50 feet there, or any other conditions that the commissioners see fit.
Okay, we have a motion to approve with a wrought iron fence condition. Commissioner Kramer?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I would move to approve that, but I think we want that wrought iron that full length and not just the 50 feet. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah, that'd be the discretion of the planning commission at this point.
The whole.
I'm good with that.
Will that 50 feet of wrought iron fencing be acceptable to the commercial?
Yeah, I think as long as there's visibility in the rear of that building, and I think there would be no backer or anything like that. It would just be an open wrought iron. So I think that would be fine. Yeah.
So open and airy.
Yeah, you would just have the wrought iron with no backer or any perforated material or anything like that. Yeah.
Then I would second the motion that way.
Okay. Yeah. Commissioner Jackal, did you have a comment?
I was going to ask the same question.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve with a condition that the wrought iron fence go along the entire length and be open for visibility into the back of the commercial project. Commissioner Garrettson, did you have an additional comment?
I do. I just have raised a lot of kind of negative questions, but I really like how this developer has responded since the early design review. The common open area, the playground, the barbecue, what they've done with the sidewalks, the raised crosswalks in there. I like the decks, the laundry rooms in each. So I just wanted to say that because I think he's responded to the concerns that the commissioners had.
Very good. Any other comments? All right, please cast your vote. And the motion passes unanimously. Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and the students from Rancho Buena Vista, if you'll come up with your forms, the commission will sign them at this time.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi.
Never know who to go to.
Oh, that's okay. Let's see.
What are you guys going to be allowed to do when they start televising the council meetings? Are you going to allow to watch it on TV instead of coming?
No, we have to be here.
You have to be here?
Because they know if
Thank you. You're welcome.
But you could, why don't you think about arranging a group meeting someplace to watch it with a teacher or advisor who can say you actually watched it? Suggestion for you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Mike. No problem.
Hi. How are you? Just send it to the city in care of the planning commissioner.
Thanks for helping me.
And we like getting those letters, by the way. So
We need it to secure the whole property.
that's always very helpful. Rod,
Thanks a lot for your help.
no problem. Just you can do it to John Conley. C-O-N-L-E-Y. This is John right here. Light blue shirt. He's the director. So you can add him, and he'll make sure that everybody. Thank you. Nice. Thank you for coming. C-O-N-L-E-Y. John. All right. Ugh. What is this? All right, where are we here?
We're on item number 3.
I know. Stop elbowing me out of the way here, Don. Not much room, you know? All right, what do we got here?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started here. If you could take your conversations on out to the lobby, please. Well, that didn't work. And we're back. Item 2 is a public hearing on an amendment to Chapter 18.52 of the Development Code pertaining to freeway-oriented pole signs.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Before you tonight is an amendment to the sign code, as mentioned by the chairman. Brief summary of the issue. The City Council adopted goals in March of last year, which included a goal to continue to decrease blight and improve the city's image. Staff has done a review of various issues and is proposing an amendment to the city's sign ordinance, specifically Chapter 1852 of the Development Code that regulates signs on private property. The amendment would affect opportunity for new pole signs within the freeway-oriented sign districts. It would restrict it to 2 specific land uses, and it would change one of the maps for freeway-oriented pole signs to remove certain properties that were rezoned last year. The freeway-oriented sign districts generally comprise commercial properties within 600 feet of the freeway. There's a map, a series of maps, 5 specifically included in the sign ordinance, that show where those eligible properties are located. On the overhead here is a summary map that just kind of shows generally where they are along West Vista Way near the intersection of Vista Village all the way to the western city boundary, and then a small area off of Sycamore that's north of Thibodaux. These are all the districts that freeway-oriented pole signs are currently allowed in. The current sign regulations for freeway-oriented pole signs, they require an administrative permit for any approved land use within the districts that are mapped. The pole signs can be 30 feet high, not to exceed 15 feet above the freeway grade elevation, whichever is greater, so not to exceed 45 feet above ground level at the maximum height. Such signs may have a sign area of up to 150 square feet, and they must be at least 150 feet from other freeway-oriented pole signs so as not to obstruct those signs. These signs are also allowed either on an individual land use or a conglomeration of commercial properties that are within a commercial center. Based on staff's analysis, there's about 36 existing freeway-oriented pole signs within these districts, and there's a little over 180 existing private properties within those districts. The proposed amendment would amend Chapter 1852 to restrict new freeway-oriented pole signs to two specific land use types. Those would be new motor vehicle dealerships or hotels. These are both revenue-generating land uses that the city benefits from. So staff is recommending that they retain the ability to put up pole signs. The sign height and square footage allowances for these two uses would remain the same, and there is a proposed amendment to map number 5 of the freeway-oriented sign district maps to remove 19 single-family homes off of Thibodeau Road that were rezoned last year. This shows the area on map number 5 that was removed, and that's included in your packet. And with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending the City Council introduce and adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 1852 of the Development Code pertaining to freeway-oriented pole signs, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions of staff? I have 2 speaker slips. Jim Clark.
Well, Commissioners, thank you very much. Appreciate this. I just had more questions than really statements, and it was regarding the 19 homes there on Thibodeau Road. Mine is one of those. So if I understand what was stated correctly, that would pull that strip of homes out of the opportunity for signs to be placed.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Mr. Kaiser?
Thank you, Commissioners and Chair. My question is, where is this coming from? A few years ago, the Planning Commission and the Council rejected freeway digital billboards, and I think rightly so, to a large extent. There are some caveats that we can get into later, but I'm not sure why we want to put more pole signs along the freeway. Maybe I'm missing something, but please educate me.
The proposal is not to allow new pole signs or to promote new pole signs. It's to restrict it to 2 specific land uses. So right now, any business owner anywhere within those districts could come in and get an administrative permit and put up a pole sign. This will restrict it to 2 specific land use types, and so it will really reduce the ability to install pole signs within the district.
Very good. Commissioner Jackal.
Thank you. I believe the earlier decision, Mr. Kaiser, was to not allow digital billboards, which, hooray. And I was therefore very glad to see this that would further restrict the ability to put up pole signs. So for each new car dealership or hotel, we get a new pole sign.
Which would come before the Planning Commission potentially, but it's administratively reviewed, and we issue an administrative sign permit typically. That's the way it's set up.
Okay, so how many new car dealerships and hotels is there room for?
Potentially a lot. I mean, we could see some redevelopment opportunities on some underutilized commercial sites within the freeway corridor that could truly turn into one of those 2 land uses. So right now, there's none. But there is potential for some in the future.
Well, keep an eye on that. What about the new hotel that's going up on San Marcos Boulevard?
That is not along the freeway corridor, so they do not have a pole sign allowance.
Okay. are there any existing pole signs that don't meet the sign requirements now that could be removed?
There are many, but we cannot remove them. So once a pole sign is approved and permitted, if the rules change, it becomes a non-conforming sign, which means it can legally exist and remain until it falls down.
Falls down, yeah.
Or if the
Okay.
city wants to pay for its removal, that's our other option.
And then one last question. This does not in any way allow digital billboards?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah, I have two short questions. I'll give them to you both, and then you can just feel free to answer. First is, did you receive any feedback, like from the Chamber of Commerce or any other organization? And then second, is there a minimum lot size for these two uses? In other words, if a small used car dealer wanted to go on a 20,000 square foot lot, could he have a pole sign on that small of a lot?
So first question, we did not receive any input from the chamber. We didn't specifically reach out to the chamber because this was after the holidays. We put it on the agenda, but we can do that before we go to council. I think that's a good recommendation. They have a Government Affairs Committee meeting in next month that we can present at. With respect to the second question, there is no minimum lot size. A new car dealership generally won't go on something smaller than 3 to 5 acres.
I'm not thinking about a new one. I'm thinking about a small used car dealership. Would they still be able to put a pole sign on a small lot?
No, it's only, the amendment would only allow for new automotive dealerships, so it would have to be a corporate dealership location.
New car, okay, I
Correct.
understand. Very good. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Very good. All right. No other comments? Commissioner, what's your pleasure? Oh, what? Yep. Okay. Commissioner Garrettson.
I would move to approve the amendment as written.
Commissioner Jackal has seconded the motion. It's been moved and second to approve the amendment as proposed. Please cast your vote. And the motion passes unanimously. All right, our third item on the agenda is an early design review. Commissioners, a couple of things. Because it's early design review, we are just providing input. There will be no decision by us tonight on the project. In addition, it's 10 units, so it will not come back for us for an approval. It'll be approved administratively by the zoning administrator. So Ms. Chow is about in position, so we'll ask her for her staff report. Okay, so that has been taken care of. So this is no problem.
Good evening, Chairman Rossler, Planning Commissioners, Patsy Chow, City Planner, Deputy Director of Community Development. Pleased to be here this evening to present this early design review item before you. It's P18-0406 at 220 Hill Drive. So just to refresh, in terms of what the process at early design review is, it is the main purpose to provide an opportunity for the Planning Commission to review the initial proposal and then provide some comments to the project applicant in this discussion format. The proposal has not been routed or fully reviewed by all the city staff, and it's only being reviewed in terms of very basic zoning compliance. The applicant is here tonight, and they'll be able to answer specific questions about the project design and their thought process behind the initial proposal. They do not have a formal presentation, I should inform you, but they are here to answer any questions after my presentation. And again, there's no formal vote or action that's required or necessary for this early design review item. The particular proposal is to develop 10 apartment units on a 1.32 acre site that's located west of Hill Drive and east of Durian Street. The site is currently occupied by a single-family residence, which would be demolished and make way for the project if the project moves forward, that is. And there will be associated site improvements that are identified or depicted on the site plan in terms of parking, landscaping, sidewalks. Something that Chairman Rossler mentioned about this particular project, the decision-making process, I just put it on this slide just to clarify that any project that contains 10 units or less, they would be reviewed and or conditionally approved or denied or approved by the zoning administrator. So actually it goes further into the two types, which is residential projects up to 4 units would be reviewed over through a plot plan process by the ZA, and that would be an administrative approval. There's no noticed hearing. And the second category actually is 5 to 10 units, which would be reviewed via site development plan, which would be for this particular project, and that would be a noticed hearing in this particular category. In both categories, the project, again, will not come before the Planning Commission in the future unless the decision of the ZA is actually obviously appealed to the Planning Commission. So I just wanted to bring that up for information. Project location, land uses that are surrounding this project site, that's depicted on the red outline in the middle. It is zoned RM15. It's surrounded by RM21 zoned pieces of property. To the west, as you probably recall, is the Laurel Creek project that's actually being constructed right now. And to the south, existing multifamily project and some single-family dwellings further to the south. And across the street to the east on Hill Drive, residentially zoned pieces of property, R1, which is single-family residential. So in terms of general plan, land use designation, the site is medium high density of 15 dwelling units per acre, which is consistent with the zoning at RM15. And as I mentioned before, surrounded by also equally medium high density 15 to the south, to the north, and some high density 21 dwelling units per acre as well. Okay, the pointer's not, okay, here we go. So the project site, just depicting some photos of the site on the top, just looking west towards the site from Hill Drive. And you can see the existing single-family home that's there now. And then the bottom picture is just looking south. You can see the multifamily project to the south that's abutting this project site. So the project specifics is what's being proposed is 10 units for rental. 6 of the units would be 3-bedroom and 4 would be 4-bedroom units. The proposed density is 7.57, which is below the 15 dwelling units per acre that's allowed per the general plan. In terms of parking, there will be a total of 40 spaces that are being proposed with additional 6 guest parking spaces, and that would be above what's required at 30 total parking spaces. The open space, what's required is about 4,200 square feet of common open space and required 100 square feet per unit for private. Although the plans don't identify specifically where these are being met, if they formally submit, we would ask for them to depict where these actual numbers are actually being met on site. And so that would be clarity as to how the requirements being met. The top is the site plan. The bottom is the landscape plan. At first, it looked like it was one giant project, so I just wanted to make sure that these are 2 separate pictures. So the top, again, is the site plan, and the bottom is a repeat of the site plan, but just showing the landscaping that it would be proposed. So the center middle area, you have their recreation area that's identified in the middle, centrally located. And they obviously show street trees, their driveways leading into each of the units, into the duplexes. In terms of architecture, it includes use of balconies, gabled roof forms, stucco walls with shutters as window accents, outdoor lantern-style lighting, and some French-style doors and slider doors as depicted on this drawing. The floor plans, I just have it here in terms of the 3-bedroom and the 4-bedroom units, and the first and second floor plans, actually levels shown as well. So the staff's request tonight is for the commission to actually provide comments to the applicant as related to the proposed design And again, there's no formal vote or action on this item. And this concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions. And again, the applicant does not have a formal presentation, but they are here to answer any questions you may have for them. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Any questions of staff? Commissioner Garrettson?
Yes, Patsy, this street will go all the way through to Durian?
Does not.
It does
so
not.
let me put up
I know if you look at the big red square, it doesn't go all the way through, but this kind of looks like on the print that it goes all the way through.
Yeah, it does not connect all the way through. So Durian, there's an actual easement at the end of Durian, or where it's connecting to Durian, but it would not be accessible as far as the primary access for the project.
Will that have a gate for emergency, or?
I believe that's the intent.
That's not their property, though, is it? You say it has a right-of-way?
No, let me see if I can point it over here. Right here, where Durian terminates, this area right here, I believe it would have some sort of a gate, but it wouldn't be a main access for the project residents, basically, or guests.
But it could be used for emergency vehicles.
We have not discussed it to that level, to be quite honest, because it's just an EDR at this point. I don't think that's the intent, and I don't recall through pre-apps that we had with them that fire actually requested that, because that's why they're trying to do a turnaround on site, so that they won't have to exit this way. But that's a vague recollection on my part.
There is an emergency gate access onto Durian, indicated on the site plan.
Oh, okay. So that would be a gated right here. I think this line right here represents that gate.
Is that road paved all the way up? It seemed like that road dead ends. I can't remember where
Durian?
it dead ends.
You mean Durian?
Yeah.
Durian actually is part of where it dead ends is going to lead into Laurel Creek project, and it continues on as a private street within the project.
But where this gated exit or emergency entrance, whatever they want to call it, where that ends, it ends on Durian, and I don't believe there's any paved road there.
Currently, you're talking about Durian not being paved. That may be
all the way up to a certain point, then it's dirt.
Right, but that dirt is actually part of Laurel Creek. It goes into the project as its next door development.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Chow, will they be required to do the street improvements on Durian?
They have to do improvements where they are abutting a public right-of-way. So whether it's Durian, obviously Hill Drive, we would be looking at that.
Okay. And you, in your staff report, you indicated these are apartments, and at one point you said they were going to be rentals.
That's correct. These are intended to be rental. They look like duplexes, or they look like for sale single-family homes, but the intent of the owners at this time, as I understand it, is for rent, not for sale.
And that's why the first unit has an office attached to it?
That's correct.
Okay. Concerning parking, are there any parking spaces that are required for the office for a rental project?
It's not addressed in our code, as I recall. So what they're proposing is mainly associated with the living units.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I like about the way this plan was drawn up was that the 4-bedroom units were right off the street, where 4-bedroom units are going to have more cars, more traffic. And then you've got the lot for children in the center with the other 3-bedroom units on the other side. I liked that. I thought that was very well planned out, and I just wanted that to be known. Thank you.
Okay. Student commissioners? Yes.
I had questions about where the entrances to the units were, as far as if it was like a dead end at the entrance, or if it led straight through to the other streets, and how wide that street was connecting all of these.
That's a good question. I had the same concern. So I think it's 24 from what I can tell, which would be two 12-foot drive lanes, and then they have additional on the east side, there's an additional 10 feet for parallel parking along there.
It is 24 feet is what's required for fire access. So along the, here we go again, trying to point this here correctly. So along this internal access way right here, and then the actual gas spaces are on this side right here. These are the individual driveways, I'm sorry, here. These are the individual driving leading into each of the units. And then I believe right here, you can probably see this is like the sidewalk that provides access along the front of the units right there.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Garrison?
Yes, Patsy, I would like to ask you to clarify the sidewalks. Are these proposed to be just separation between the sidewalk and the driveway, or raised brick or something to differentiate? Because people are walking in front of the garage as people are backing out of the garage. So if there was a raised brick or something there, it would make them more conscious that that's a sidewalk and not just the driveway.
The sidewalks would have to meet our standards. So typically is just, they're going to follow whatever the engineering requirements are. As far as use of brick pavers or anything like that, they probably don't want to use anything that could be potentially a trip hazard, and probably a maintenance issue down the road. Certainly, they're going to try to follow what's traditionally provided as form of like a sidewalk you would see in any other project, and meeting the minimum standards again for accessibility requirements. And pretty much, I mean, we're just trying to again provide, I guess, through our comments that we had during pre-app, is to make sure that there is pedestrian accessibility and safety, so that they're not walking down the driveway.
I think what could probably happen, what's proposed, would be a difference of material used on that 4-foot wide sidewalk that's different from the pathway that the cars would take. And you could go with a rolled, more than likely, you're going to want a rolled curb. A rolled curb is something that a car can drive over, and that would distinguish the driving surface from the walking surface.
That could be. Sure, we can look into that once we get into a formal review and what the options are.
Mr. Astor, did you have a comment on provide some input for us?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Joe Astorga, and I'm the designer of the project. I'm a 25-year resident of Vista, and I love it here. Answer a couple of questions. We do have separate parking for the rental office. Each unit has 4 parking spaces, 2 inside and 2 outside, and the walkways will be a separate material to make sure it stands out. And it is in the back, it is a easement. The fire department requested that, a gated easement that goes out to Durian. And the existing pavement now on Durian ends on our north property line. It's already paved to that point. There's a barrier there. Any questions?
Okay. Any other questions while we have him up here? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Jackal.
Are we going to go through sort
Yes.
of like the different elements?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I'm just making sure all our questions were answered before we. Okay, Commissioners, we have our design review format, and the first item on our format is site design and grading. Any comments on the site design and grading? Commissioner Bill?
I'll just say that overall with the complex to the south, I feel like it fits well with the existing complex. The fact that usually we tend to shy away from a single row of homes, but the fact that the units south of it are broken up, and it seems like with the long, thin lot you have here, you've done a very good job of putting that together, so I commend you for that, and I tend to be Again, usually I wouldn't typically go for that, but it seems like with the space allotted within this site design, it doesn't feel crammed in the same way I typically would react to that. So that's my gut reaction just from looking at the initial drawings.
Okay. Commissioner Looney?
I want to commend you on the civil engineering. The smaller bio retention basins that were scattered throughout the property, it worked really well, and you almost use that as a landscape element at the entry of the units. It works well, and as was previously mentioned, putting the open play area and shade structure in the center of the piece of property, it works well. And you've got some retaining walls. It's a steep slope coming from Hill going down to Durian. Your retaining walls aren't that tall, but it does work. It does work well. So.
All right. I tend to agree on the site design. The constraints of the piece of property are pretty severe with the narrow, long lot. I thought providing the duplexes adjacent to each other and stepping them along was a good design. It's going to be interesting to see how this works as a rental apartment. I don't know that we have 3 and 4 bedroom, some single-family attached units that rent like this in a project. So I'm going to be interested to see how it develops and goes. Next item is architecture. Any comments on the architecture? Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah, just a comment on the rear elevations of the building. You have a run on the roof of about 40 feet. And that starts to get into that area where it's a pretty long run. On the front side, you've done some architectural work to kind of soften that. And I guess my thought is just I'd like to see something on the rear elevation that would soften that long length of roof.
Commissioner Jackal?
Thank you. I agree about the rear elevation, but overall, I really like the details of the structures. I like the massing of them. I really think it's nice.
Very good. I tend to agree with both commissioners. There is a long run of roof broken up with the first story roof structure, which we haven't seen very often. But I do like the front elevations, the attention to detail. The elevation that will front Hill Street has additional elements to it, so I thought that was good. And then the last unit at some point will be visible from Durian Street, so they've paid attention to the rear elevations there, and I thought that was a good solution. So we'll move along to parking and traffic. Any comments on parking and traffic? Commissioner Jackal?
Does this include driveways too?
Sure, yes.
Well, this is another place where it's kind of an odd geographical placement, and again, I'm worried about the sight lines coming out of the driveway. So I don't know. Leave it to the traffic engineer to figure that out, but I am concerned about that.
Okay. Sight distance on Hill Street going into and coming out of the project is a concern, and it looks again like this is a standard driveway curb cut, and I think that the alley return would provide better egress and in and out of the project. So I would recommend that they use the alley return instead of the standard driveway curb cut. And then I think we've discussed it, but it appears on the plan that the main drive the 4-foot sidewalk and the driveways to the garages are all of the same material and at the same elevation. And I think that we've discussed it here, but I think as a point of direction that needs to be differentiated so that the sidewalk stands out on the project. All right, and then landscape and amenities. Any comments on the landscape and amenities? Commissioner Jackal?
Again, I think it's a very nice job. I like the landscaping plan, and I echo other commissioners liking the play area in the middle. That's great.
Okay. Any other comments, commissioners? Okay. Well, you've done a very good job because there aren't very many comments from the commissioners, so congratulations. So that concludes our review of the project. We will not take an action tonight, and maybe staff will remember to come back and tell us how this turns out in their final review. All right. So that concludes our public hearing and review items tonight. The next item on the agenda is reports and comments from the commission members. Any reports or comments? I had one question. Mr. Connolly, last Friday, there was a fire off of Vale Terrace behind the office buildings and in the Buena Creek walkway or open space area. Do we know what caused that?
I did read about it in the paper. I have a question into the fire chief, but I haven't gotten an answer
Okay.
yet, so I'll let you know when I do find out about that. I think there's quite a bit of homeless activity in that area. That's my gut, but we'll find out.
That's what I was thinking. But some of the big old oak trees went up like a Roman candle. It was visible on the north side of the city. So, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Mr. Connolly while we have him here? Commissioner Garrison.
Not so much a question for Mr. Conley, but a suggestion to the Planning Commission that at some point in time we have some sort of a discussion about compatibility. The whole subject keeps coming up, and I think it would be good to have some discussion about it. There are, I believe, 5 Lucy policy issues about compatibility, and we dealt with it again tonight, compatibility. So I think if we could, have some discussion, or anyway, just my suggestion that the commission might want to consider having that. Mr. Conley and I have had this discussion. He thought it might be better to make a suggestion to the city council, but I wanted to suggest that we have that discussion about compatibility and maybe submit any questions we might have to the city council.
Very good. Commissioners?
So
Seems to be
I can bring a discussion item on compatibility. We can look for an agenda in the next couple of months that we have some space to put it on. I guess I would like a little bit of understanding of what you want to discuss in terms of compatibility. Compatibility can be looked at 2 different ways. One is land use. So is commercial compatible with residential? Is multifamily residential compatible with single-family residential? That's a land use question about operation and use of the property. Then there's the question of size and form and scale and density, bulk. That's another issue. I wouldn't call it compatibility as much as I would call it, architectural compatibility or building size and scale compatibility. But those are kind of 2 different issues. The second one is one that I think we hear a lot more about. The first one's pretty straightforward, and we have pretty straightforward policies, in my opinion, in the general plan about what land uses are compatible with others. So I can come back and talk about scale, bulk, density, particularly in those areas where we have large-scale development plan next to lower-scale development.
I would tend to agree with that. I think when the general plan was developed, that those discussions were had about what land uses should be next to what other land uses, and especially in the instance that was here tonight, the property is in the county and zoned rural residential, which most of the land around the city is, and yet it's one block or one lot away from this East Vista Way, one of our main thoroughfares. So I'm reluctant to constrain what can happen along East Vista Way because of rural residential property in the county.
But let's talk about land use compatibility. Is a multifamily residential project really incompatible with a single-family residential project that's next door? I don't think it is, personally. I mean, they're both residential uses. Yeah, you have a little bit more intensity. You have a commercial development where you have deliveries and customers and noise. Yes, we require a 6-foot wall between those properties,
right.
But we don't have a requirement for those types of developments when it's multifamily, single-family. We can certainly discuss that. We can change our policies if we want, but that's where we're at right now.
I tend to agree. Commissioner Bell?
Just to add on, I think the second description you had is probably more accurate as to what I'm thinking, and I think Commissioner Garrettson and I had some good discussions about this when we were at the conference last year. And what we saw that might be helpful is other municipalities and organizations setting some kind of objective standards on sight lines, views, emissions, and obviously we're never going to find answers to all that, but we did see some examples out there of saying, hey, here's a single story from 50 years ago, and now here's a 2 to 3 story coming in. So at what point do we do setbacks? At what point do we do second or third story setbacks? Is there a compromise in the middle there somewhere? And I think what we're coming across right now in some of our items are just the butting up of those two against each other. So if I don't want to make the city go out and do a bunch of research, but if you have sources of other jurisdictions that have put standards like this into place, that might be useful for us to at least consider and look at. And not that we have to adopt those, but at least then we have some idea of what people are using out there to judge the differences here that may actually be working. And this is coming from the attorney who's like, can you give me a guideline? Can you tell me exactly how this fits neatly into a pattern?
Sure.
So again, that's just coming from my perspective.
That's fine. There's a lot of stuff out there. This kind of goes to the point that I made when I spoke to Commissioner Garrettson about these discussion items. We're happy to bring them and we can put them together and have a thoughtful discussion, but it does take a little bit of research and time for us to put that together. So maybe we can do it every quarter, every 6 months when we have some staff time to avail to it. So, but we'll start with compatibility. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions for Mr. Conley?
One update, and that is that we will have a meeting on February 5th, which is the next date on our calendar, and we'll have a few items there, 2 public hearings, I believe, and an early design review item. I don't have any other updates.
Oh, student commissioners? Any questions, comments? Okay.
Chairman Rossler, may I?
We have one student commissioner.
I wanted to ask a little bit about the apartment complex that should be going in on, I think it's South Melrose near the high school.
South Melrose. Okay. Yes.
That's in Vista, right? So is that within? What's the progress on that?
Are you speaking of the complex South Melrose? There are a few going on there. It's the one behind the church or behind Del Taco?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a for sale project. So it's 47 units. Mm-hmm.
Came to us.
Go ahead.
So that project, the models are open, and I think the first phase is done. They have maybe 6 or 7 phases total, so we're just getting into the meat of the main part of the project. Okay. I think the amenities are done, or mostly done, and the models are open.
Okay. The speaking of projects under construction, on South Santa Fe, the single-family detached project, and they were required to do the roundabout. Is that under construction now?
Yeah, so I drove by there today, actually. They have poured curbs on one side of the roundabout. It's under construction, though. They're saying it's going to be done in February, so we got a few more weeks, but the main part of the roundabout still has to be constructed.
Okay.
you can see the curb returns going up the street on Mar Vista.
Very good.
John, on that project, they've done some trenching across Santa Fe, and SDG&E takes forever to service customers like that. But some of the paving in their trench has collapsed on the, I'm going to call it the westbound or the northbound lane of traffic, and it's probably 8 inches deep, and it's probably 8 inches wide. I drive it frequently, and it can.
No problem.
I don't know if there's
I'll
a
get an
way
inspector
to
out. They just need to fill
just to fill that with asphalt.
Yeah, that's not a
And
problem.
I know that they were probably hoping SDG&E would get out there in 2 weeks.
No,
but
we'll
there's
make
still
sure
metal
it's done.
plates.
That's not a problem
Thanks.
at all. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Garrettson?
Yeah, just to follow up, the student commissioner, did that answer your question? Was you just wanted a timing update, or was there something specific that you were looking for?
That answered my question.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kramer?
Mr. Connolly, how's Paseo Santa Fe coming?
Slowly but surely, we are getting there. The contractor has not had the number of staff working on it that we were hoping for. He's kind of spread around town with a lot of different projects, but he's got a window of time where he can add more crews to the project and get it done within the time frame that we've given him. So he's starting to add more crews and speed up. Because of all the utility work, it's taking a long time to see anything really happen. There's a lot happening underground. The storm drain's being built right now. The next phase will be the utilities going underground, and then we'll start the surface improvements. But we still expect to finish it on time, roughly around the beginning of next year.
And the big corner project, 7 stories underground, how are they coming? I mean,
They're right on target.
wow.
They're building their second level of parking right now, and you'll start seeing some steel coming out of the ground here probably next month.
Wow, fabulous. Thank you.
Commissioner Looney?
I met with an applicant before Christmas, Mr. Bill Gooden. Is this an appropriate setting? He was an applicant a couple of months ago where we had a very fragmented set of drawings that really didn't match. And one of the comments that we had made was that we have him create a more broken up approach down the driveway rather than seeing a continuous wall of garages. So he asked to meet with me. He had a pencil sketch of a revised garage layout, so I did meet with him. He was going in a good direction, but I don't know if he's going to come back for a second design review or not. But so the community is reaching out. They do want some input, and that's encouraging to see. So I just want to kind of let each of you know that that does take place still.
We will ask Mr. Gooden to come back through EDR, and I just want to give you kudos for meeting with him, because a 10-minute meeting with him, what should be 10 minutes is usually more than an hour, so I appreciate it.
Which project was this again?
It was an early design review on Hill Drive, just not too far down the street from the one we looked at tonight.
Yes. Okay, very good. Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah, a little earlier, Commissioner Bell and I were talking about the project that we approved tonight up on East Vista Way, and then the project across the street that was approved, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And then you've got what's going on at Chow's, which is kind of a wonderful, wonderful thing. But I guess the elephant there in the area, that the area is improving, is the Shell station. And you guys have probably discussed it in the past, but it's probably a sore subject.
That's a horrible subject.
Yeah, is there anything?
We have been working diligently with the property owner. He has been the subject of several code enforcement actions. He's been fined a significant amount of money that's gone on his tax record. He has been processing a building permit with us now for over a year, trying to get the station back open, but he's just not quick on the resubmittals. It takes several months, but we're still trying to get him to move forward with something. It's just been difficult.
I guess since he's working on it, it would be pretty hard to try to make that a public nuisance, and the fact that he's.
We have discussed that. It's just that he has taken all the appropriate steps that he needs to avoid that happening. So when a property owner is minimally compliant, it's, you know,
It's difficult.
It's really hard.
process. Anyway, thank you. Sorry I brought it up.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
Chairman Rossler?
Yes.
May I bring up the...
Sure.
I still have not forgotten. All right. I just wanted to bring to your attention that the Commissioners Academy, the Planning Commission's, the Planners Academy, the League of California Cities that they hold every year, Commissioner Bell brought that up. It is going to be held on March 6th through the 8th. That's a Wednesday through a Friday. It's 2.5 days. It is in Long Beach. So I'm planning to attending it, and there is 2 spots for 2 commissioners. Newer commissioners, obviously, probably, perhaps you discuss it amongst yourselves, but whoever wants to go, if you can shoot me an email or let me know so that we can make proper arrangements for registration and a hotel. That's it. So just let me know if you can in the next few days or next week or so. That would be appreciated because we want to make sure we get early registration and hotels and such.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Oh, the Form 700? The Post-it note on my computer says April 2nd, so, yeah.
It's March.
Was it?
March 28th.
March 28th?
You'd be fined every day you're late.
Yep. I'll go back and check that. All right. If there's nothing further, we will stand adjourned until February 5th.